A top U.S. political reporter working for ABC News has been suspended without pay after making false claims about potential collusion between Team Trump and Moscow. He stated that Trump directed Flynn to make contact with Russia while he was still a candidate. But Flynn is not believed to have established dialogue until after the election. Trump's former aide's been making headlines since Friday when he pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with the then Russian ambassador to the U.S. Flynn became the first former White House official to be charged in the so-called Russia investigation. But as Jacqueline Vuga explains, fake news is masking what the probe into alleged collusion has actually uncovered.
After almost a year of investigations into whether Team Trump and Big Bad Russia were in on it together, the only concrete things to come out of those inquiries is a couple charges of making false statements and a shocking revelation that we knew a year ago.
This building doesn't see anything necessarily, inappropriate about contact between members of the incoming administration and foreign officials, no matter what country they're from, right?
No. And again, this has been ongoing. We have no, no comment or no problem with them doing such on their own.
The Obama administration saw no issue in Michael Flynn's conversations with the then Russian ambassador because it was par for the course. But that didn't stop the media running wild over his guilty plea, throwing fact-checking to the wind. Like ABC's award-winning chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross, who won't be on the air for the next 4 weeks because of his false reporting on Flynn.
He's prepared to testify, we are told by a confidant, against President Trump, against members of the Trump family, and others in the White House. He's prepared to testify that President Trump, as a candidate, Donald Trump, directed him to make contact with the Russians, which contradicts all that Donald Trump has said at this point.
That bombshell report sent shockwaves across the nation, even tanking the U.S. stock market, only to be proved fake. In reality, Michael Flynn was asked to contact the Russians only after Trump had already won the election, which makes a world of difference. You can't sway a vote that's already played out. ABC issued an apology about how they deeply regret this serious error, saying they had not fully vetted Ross's story. Well, maybe they should have known better, given his history of producing fake news. Back in 2001, Ross made the explosive claim that Saddam Hussein may have been responsible for anthrax attacks in the U.S., citing only anonymous sources. The White House personally shot down that story and what they referred to as concocted claims. One news agency described Ross as, quote, having produced more high-level haphazard reporting than perhaps any other reporter on television. Although, to be fair, he's far from alone when it comes to misreporting, especially when it comes to stories on Russia.
He will dispute that he ever assured the president that he was not under any kind of investigation.
On March the 30th, and I think again on April 11th as well, I told him we're not investigating him personally. That was true.
Corrections, clarifications, and apologies are all well and good, but more often than not, once the fake story is out of the bag, the retraction does little to put it back in.
To Mali in West Africa now, where the country's president has confirmed that Malian soldiers were killed in a French airstrike in October. France thought that its operation was targeting forces that deserted to join an Islamist group. However, it's now believed that those soldiers had been taken hostage by the jihadists.
They were the terrorist hostages, and there should be no ambiguity about that between our French friends and us.
One of those stories where the truth is really hard to be established, but what we know for sure so far is that at the end of October, the French military stationed in Africa as part of the anti-terrorist operation known as Barkhane carried out a strike targeting the northern part of Mali, the country's troubled region, suffering a lot in the last 5 years and currently from Islamist violence. According to the French commanders, 15 jihadists were killed in the attack, including who they believe were former Malian soldiers who joined the ranks of the Islamists.
The discovery of a terror cell in the region of Abbé Bara led to a joint action between the French Special Forces and Operation Barkhane soldiers. This operation allowed us to take out 15 members of this group.
But what is surprising in this situation is the reaction of Mali's president. Despite the death of the country's soldiers that could have been killed by mistake and could be considered as collateral damage, his reaction is very moderate.
It's regrettable. It can unfortunately happen in these types of operations. We should admit it and not look for reasons that don't exist.
Why is he doing that? It's really hard to say. He may have his own reasons, and we know that Mali has been helped a lot by France to fight against Islamist groups in the northern part of the country. But again, this is one of those stories where the accounts could be different from sides involved, and it's really hard to establish where is the truth.
South Korea and the United States have begun conducting their largest ever joint aerial drills, according to officials in Seoul. Now, the exercises come as Washington indicates that war with North Korea is becoming increasingly likely.
So has the potential of war with North Korea increased since this latest launch?
I think it's increasing every day, which means that we're in a race, really. We're in a race to be able to solve this problem.
It's crazy to send spouses and children to South Korea given the provocation of North Korea. So I want them to stop sending dependents, and I think it's now time to start moving American dependents out of South Korea.
America has sent 6 tactical stealth jets and 18 of its latest fighter planes to participate in the drills, along with 12,000 military personnel. South Korea says the drills are aimed at improving the Allies' wartime capabilities. Previous joint drills have been seen by many, though, as a display of the two countries' military might. Last week, North Korea test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile said to be capable of hitting the U.S. mainland. Pyongyang also claimed at the weekend that Washington is, quote, begging for nuclear war. Russia and China have been calling on North Korea and America both to refrain from reckless moves. But that call's been flatly rejected by Washington. Political analyst Joseph Cheng believes that's not helping the situation on the peninsula.
This is certainly not sensible, and this is not going to be very effective. Both the United States and South Korea are not ready to accept the suggestion on the part of China and Russia, namely to stop nuclear and missile tests on the part of North Korea and missile and military exercises on the part of the United States and South Korea to generate a better atmosphere for negotiations. It will be difficult to expect Beijing to do more while the United States refuses to do anything to bring about peaceful negotiations.